Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second and the final day of the LKDF Forum for 2022. I'm happy to be back with you once again. My name is Fifi Peters, coming to you from South Africa, hosting the session once again today. And I'm with my partner, Wale, who's over in Nigeria. Good morning, Wale.
Very good morning, Fifi, and good morning to everyone for joining us for day two. Welcome to day two. It promises to be exciting, informative. I'm sure we're all going to change in the process. And just looking back yesterday, Fifi, at some of the takeaways, I think for me, the number one quote was that skills are the best buffer to navigate uncertainty. And I think that came out of one of the panels that you were moderating. And I think that is so apt. We need to get ready for the changes that are upon us and are coming. And I'm sure we're going to get the tools we need to do just that as we move further into day two. So you want to tell us what's coming up today, Fifi?
Yeah. So in terms of what is coming up today, I mean, we will be having hosting a whole lot more conversations on building skills resilience. I think for me, one of my takeaways from day one was the fact that, I mean, there is no recipe, there is no formula, no one has it. It's something that we're all trying to build towards and learn about. And I think that in terms of some of the ingredients that were shared yesterday in building resilience, it definitely was about embracing new forms of learning and new learning platforms provided by online and technology. It was about increasing the access to a lot of these short courses, micro credentials being really important in building resilience. It was also about ensuring that all parties, all stakeholders were on board, because it's certainly not something that anyone can do in isolation. And I think today we'll be carrying on those conversations, but hearing more loudly and more acutely from two stakeholders that will be integral in really being successful in achieving skills resilience, and that is the youth and the private sector. And so I'm certainly looking forward to hearing from some of the young people, entrepreneurs doing amazing things today. I mean, for instance, we'll be hearing from an amazing, a young person over in Kenya who did not let her humble beginnings define her destiny, and in fact, used those humble beginnings to strengthen her position. And now she's doing such amazing things in the village that she comes from in Kenya, using the power of technology. We'll also be hosting a fireside chat in which the youth, young entrepreneurs in the private sector will be able to speak to each other a lot more closely in addressing what is a critical problem right now, and that is the skills mismatch that we have in labor markets in most parts of the world. There'll be a call to action to all stakeholders in ramping up their efforts, of course, Wale, to increase the resilience of the labor force worldwide. And of course, you'll be hosting a few sessions today.
Oh, no doubt. I look forward to that. You did mention the private sector. I will be moderating a panel where we unpack building resilience in the private sector. But beyond that, I also look forward to moderating a session where we would be learning from those who have walked the walk already and are making incredible progress in terms of building resilience. We'll be hearing from all over the world some examples of progress there. But before we proceed, and I would be unveiling our poll question this morning. But before that, I would like to encourage everyone who is joining us from all across the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're coming from. Please type in a message. Let us know where you are joining us from this morning. We'll be delighted to read that and, of course, share on the platform. And of course, please make sure you can use the chat function to do just that. And I did mention the poll question today, and I'll get right into that. You should also look for the poll button on your right, on the right side of the screen. And today, the question is this: getting Tibet right is not cheap, and that was one of the takeaways from yesterday. So the question is, how optimistic are you that enough investments will be made for resilient workers to be trained and be better prepared for disruptions? What are your thoughts on that? So you have 4 options. Of course, you may be not optimistic, you may be moderately optimistic, you may be optimistic or very optimistic. wherever you are on that spectrum, we would love to hear you chime in and get your views on that. Fifi?
Yes, and so as we let our audience members let us know where they're coming from, and also answer your poll question, Wale. Really think critically about it, and we'll be bringing the results obviously towards the end of the morning session. But let's push on with the program and hear from an individual, a young person who has certainly living the saying that how you start is not how you should finish. She's about to present a TED Talk to us, a bit of a story, giving us the journey of her background, how it is that she came to do what she is doing, and I'm sure some of the challenges along the way. Her name is Nelly Cheboi, and she is the CEO of TechLit Africa. And really excited to be with us here this morning. Lady, good morning. I just want to introduce you a little bit, just to the attendees who may be meeting you for the first time, because what you have done is certainly exemplary. As humble as you do present yourself. But Nelly was born into poverty, and she really made it her goal to fix it sustainably. So the organization that she is currently leading now, TechLit Africa, it leverages the digital economy to provide more opportunities for rural Africans to make a living. Her efforts have not gone unnoticed, and she has been recognized on a number of esteemed platforms. She is a Forbes 30 Under 30 Achiever and was also named a CNN hero. And we're going to hear right now more about her mission to help people in Africa overcome adversity and how she is doing this using technology. So Nelly, good morning. I'm going to hand the virtual floor over to you.
Thank you so much, Fifi. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I am calling in from Kenya, so quite an international panel right here. So I'll begin. I grew up in a small village called Mogotio. I grew up in poverty. I grew up going to school barefoot, going to bed hungry. My mom worked really hard to provide for my sisters and I. She did all kind of businesses from she did all kind of businesses, and even though they kept failing, she'd wake up the next day and try a new venture. She was the first example of resilience to me. I remember her riding on train for hours to Uganda to buy household goods to sell them in the village for small margin. She then got arrested, and then she switched to going to Ethiopia to buying goats and sell them. She would ride on these long tracks, be one of the only women doing that. I don't know what happened to that, but what I remember distinctly is when she started selling vegetables in Nakuru, which is about an hour away. So she bought 3 bags of vegetables, went to Nakuru, laid them there, and she was able to sell them the first day. So she saved all her money and then spent it to invest on the next day. So she bought 4 bags and went back to the same spot. But this time there was no one there. So she just sat there. There was no one. She didn't know it was Christmas Day. And so she didn't even have bus fare to go back home. So that day, a security guard came in and helped her, just hosted her and then gave her transport back home. I think that was really hard on me. I was in 5th grade, because for me, I believe that no matter how bad the days got, I knew that we'll always have food on Christmas Day. But that Christmas Day, we went to bed hungry. I grew up inspired. I was inspired by my mom, who believed so much in educating us, even though her herself could barely read or write. She believes so much in education. She didn't even skip a beat when her various ventures were failing. She would just dust off and be on to the next thing. I wanted her to catch a break. Even at 11, I was thinking of ways I could get her to retire and write the stories of resilience, of what it means to grow up in rural Kenya. I grew up in a tin roof house full of holes. The house would flood during rainy season, but on sunny days, light would bounce around in a spectacular way. I used to lay on the disintegrated cement floor and gaze at the bouncing rays of Shanton as I imagined ways I could help my family and my community. I was thinking of building a house for everyone or a big kitchen that could feed everyone. I knew that education gave me a better chance of achieving all of that. So I studied hard in school. We didn't have electricity at home, and my mom could not afford kerosene. So I used to study at a hospital veranda until late at night. I was the top girl in the district out of primary education and got admitted into one of the top high school in Kenya, 4 hours away from home. I wasn't in school much because I was constantly sent home for tuition. I would bring my books with me and also borrow some of my classmate notes so I can catch up on my studies on the ride home. I would help my mom had her businesses at the time. It would take us almost a week to raise enough money just for bus fare, not even for tuition fees. I was sent to collect. I would then go back to school empty-handed, lay low, and catch up on whatever I missed until I'm sent back home a few weeks later. I tried to show resilience and cope with the obstacles I was facing in order to acquire the best educational progress possible because I knew that education and acquiring the right skills will pay off in the long term. I get the top marks, which is my scholarship in the US. When I got to America, I got a job as a janitor through a work study program. My goal was to save enough money to move my family out of poverty and get my mom to retire. I could only work 20 hours a week as an international student. So I would wake up at 6 a.m. On Saturdays and Sunday and work until noon. That was already 10 hours. And then I also picked a few hours at the cafeteria during the week. I could work longer on summer, so I continued the janitorial work during the summer, clocking in 40 hours a week at $8.25 an hour. In about 13 months, I flew back home to one of the biggest markets in Nairobi, bought a truckload of furniture, rented a truck, and drove 4 hours to Mogotio. I got home and my family could not believe it. We were getting out of that house. We moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with electricity, water, and latrine on site. It was such a wonderful homecoming, and for the first time, we were taking pictures inside our house. We were having people for tea, something that we were so embarrassed to do at our old home. My family had a decent lifestyle now, but it was becoming really hard to sustain it. I was a broke college student, picking up extra shifts just to keep sending money home. It wasn't sustainable, and it was also preventing me from exploring ways I could empower my community. So I decided to build a school for 2 reasons. Parents would pay $10 a month for their kids to attend the school, enough to cover all operation costs. I could also explore different ways I could incorporate different training programs for the community. Now a junior in college, I made a GoFundMe page to raise $3,000 to fund the school. I had so much high hopes. I recorded a video, poured my heart all out, only to raise $300. I was heartbroken but determined. So I continued my janitorial work, picked up a few small loans from friends. We broke ground in summer 2015, and in January 2016, we launched the school. I had the structure done, but no money to buy a desk or any supplies for that matter. I was in debt. My sister Sharon took leftover bricks from construction, converted them into seats. She then painted part of the wall to create a blackboard and took the rest of the supplies she needed on credit. The school now is a 4-storied community center supporting a lot of community empowerment projects. Just like my mother did, I believe that education is a driving force to equip young people with skills for jobs of tomorrow. Despite the challenges posed by the pandemic, in 2021, I also experimented on a few projects. One of them was a vocational training school for hairdressing. The hair school runs every quarter. Students learn hairdressing, graduate in 3 months to run their own salons or be employed locally. Most of the people coming to the program were women staying at home, taking care of their families, and depending a lot on their husbands. They want to also bring something to the table and have the power to leave when they find themselves in an abusive relationship. This was quite timely, as we know that the pandemic and lockdowns exacerbated domestic violence and abuse. So establishing this school was a way to give an opportunity to women suffering from abuses and become resilient individuals. Most of them show up really early in the morning, sometimes learning with their young ones on their back. Some even come from miles away, relocate to Mogotio for 3 months, attend the school, and go back to start their own salons or do door-to-door providing the service. This project offers women the empowerment they might need to gain financial independence and control in their long run, stronger resilience. Another program I launched from the school was TechLit Africa. I first used a computer when I was applying to colleges in the US at 18. I discovered computer science 3 years later and I instantly fell in love with it. I really struggled to get a computer science degree or even break into tech because I didn't have even the fundamentals as touch typing. I typed so slow that I had to write my college aces on a piece of paper first, then transcribe them later. I kept thinking of kids back home who were left behind. I started thinking of how powerful the digital infrastructure is to build and leverage. With the right skills, people could work from anywhere for anyone. They could become software engineers working remotely from Mogotio for a big international tech company or producers for international news channels from rural village. I started to notice the difference between America and Kenya. In Kenya, education is so expensive that parents sink into debt to educate their kids only for the kids to be unemployed. In America, property taxes, paid for schools, and middle and high schools are all free. In America, the financial systems are so strong that you could get negative interest rate loans to start or scale your business. In Kenya, a business owner is looking at 13% interest rate in the low end. This unfavorable entrepreneurial climate hinders small businesses from becoming middle-sized businesses that can employ a lot of people. So everyone is a small business owner that works tirelessly to barely get by. To fix poverty, we need to fix these systems, but that is really expensive. On the other hand, digital infrastructure is the easiest to build. We just need to get people online, and as long as they have the skills and the computers, they can work for any company in the world. We learned that not so many people want to just sit and read Wikipedia pages. So we thought we would teach them a real skill and connect with jobs to our networks in Chicago. We started with a WordPress site. We walked the streets of Mogotio with a laptop, recruiting people to come and learn digital skills. 20 signed up, and 12 showed up the first day. The next day, only 6 showed up, and after that, we were struggling to even get 3 recurring users. We got a real job and paid them $8 an hour to show up and work. But that failed miserably because they only showed up, barely produced anything, cashed out, and left. All this time, we had kids flooding the school, hoping to see a computer. And with a heavy heart, we decided to focus on kids. The first week, we had 60 kids. 60 kids showed up every day to use the computers. The second week, we were up to 200 kids a day. Some were showing up as early as 6 a.m., waiting for the computer lab to open at 8. We had found demand for our project. After 3 months in Kenya, we had seen about 1,200 students. When we started tracking recurring users, we noticed that most of them were boys because girls were mostly at home helping with chores. We knew that to ensure equal access, we needed to go to schools. We wrapped in 2019, ready to work with schools in 2020. COVID happened and Kenya schools shut down for a year. During this time, we tried to be resilient by focusing on shipping our computers for the next schools and finding partners in other countries that we could ship our curriculum as we waited for Kenya schools to resume in 2021. Today, TechLit has 13 schools working with 5,000 students. Our students are learning skills about coding, design, personal branding, working online, and so much more. We train local youth to be in the schools every day to teach the classes. We also encourage students to provide goals for themselves and acknowledge their successes when overcoming challenges. Delivering training to the people we work with and providing them with the right skills to enter the job market in the future will make them resilient in the long term, especially when faced again with challenges and crisis situations. I believe that resilience is a journey and can only lead to success with the right set of opportunities, the willing to grow, and the progress in education. We still run into a lot of challenges. What keeps me up at night right now is how to get the community to believe in the program enough to cover local operations. They think that as an NGO, we should not charge anything. So most days I spend calling them and explaining explaining the program to them, and make them understand that investing in education and in their kids' skills is the most precious gift they could do for them and for the community to become resilient for future challenges in the wake of the skills revolution, and to be able to find a job in the new green digital economy. Thanks to education and skills training, they have the opportunity to address some of the most fundamental world challenges. They cannot be left behind. So what's kept me going? I'll never forget the pain of poverty. I still see that pain in my community. I see kids being told to take it easy because her mom cannot afford medicine. People dying of totally treatable diseases. Young people becoming alcoholics because they have given up on life. And even worse, the lack of upward mobility of the most hardworking people in our communities. Those pains and challenges are so much bigger than the challenges of being an entrepreneur. They hope that our work can sensibly empower people, give them the skills they need to be able to find a decent job, and ultimately fix poverty for good is the mountain I'm devoting to move.
Wow. Sure, Nelly, don't even know what to say to you. I mean, your story is absolutely amazing, and how you can smile through all the adversity that you've been through is something else. And for me, my key takeaway from what you have said, yesterday we spoke about resilience and what it meant. And you have lived the definition that was shared yesterday, in the sense that resilience was about uh, bouncing forward. And I think that you are very lucky to have had a hustler of a mother that you did have, who, no matter what came her way, she just bounced forward, because clearly it did carry on to the kind of entrepreneur that you have become. I think for me, if I just say two more things, you have shown the importance of education as being the driving force of strengthening one's resilience, just your commitment to your studies, despite the fact that things were so hard for you. I mean, you had to study with no electricity at a hospital until late and then walk home. And just that foundation in education clearly has taken you quite far, even in terms of the opportunity that you were able to access in the US. And I also think that you exemplify what a lot of people say in, when you empower a female entrepreneur, you empower a community, just given everything that you have done and you are still trying to do for the community. So for me, I say well done to you. We've got a whole lot of comments coming through from the attendees as well, saying that truly inspirational, an inspiring story. Nelly, what do you think about it?
I simply echo what we're seeing in the chat. Very inspiring. And I think, when we think of philanthropy and giving back, I really like stories like this, because as TechLit Africa has highlighted, digital skills unlock global opportunities. And so you are potentially taking these thousands of people that you're engaging to the world. And I think that is so inspiring. So well done. Thank you so much, Nelly.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.